Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next webinar of our Buyer Insights and Intelligence series. It's the last session of the day, and it's a good one, I promise, so we're excited to have you all today. So today's session is called Adapt and Evolve, Building a Better Buying Experience in an All-Digital World. My name is Claudia Tirico, and I'm the editor at Demand Gen Report, and I will be your moderator for this presentation. I'm going to run through a couple of housekeeping slides. So as always, during and after today's session, please follow along and share your thoughts and feedback with us on Twitter and LinkedIn using the hashtag BII20. All of our Twitter handles are right here on your screen, so please tag us in your posts so we could all get social together. You'll also be able to tweet from directly within the On24 platform using the Twitter widget on your screen, and I'll show you where that is in a minute. All right, like I said, for today's presentation, we'll be using the On24 platform. So during the session, you could access all of the information that you need right from this toolbar. Like I just mentioned, you could tweet from directly within the platform using the Twitter widget that's on the left-hand side of your screen. Today's session is slated to run about 25 to 35 minutes with an additional 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A following. You could submit your questions using the Q&A widget right on your right at any time. Today's session is being recorded, and all of our attendees will receive an archived link to the presentation to go back and share with colleagues. We also welcome you to let us know how we're doing so we could continue to improve the level of value we provide you with all of our virtual events. So please take a quick survey that will automatically launch when the session ends. You can actually also pull up, complete, and submit the survey at any time during this webinar by clicking on the survey icon right at the bottom of your screen. So please, before signing off today, take a moment to complete this quick questionnaire. All right, now I'm pleased to introduce our featured speakers for this session, Julie Hogan and Molly Clark of Drift. Julie is the Vice President of Customer Experience at Drift. She has been with the company since October 2017, and during her time there, she has launched the customer success, customer support, partner, and professional service organizations. Julie has been on the front lines of the customer experience for her entire career. Molly is the head of digital marketing at Drift. She joined Drift in January of this year and oversees paid acquisition strategies and digital experience. So as you can see, we've got a powerhouse lineup of female experts for today's session. So I'm really excited to get this going. So I'm going to stop talking and pass the mic over to Molly and Julie to kick things off. All yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Claudia. We're really excited to both be here today. As Claudia mentioned, I'm Julie Hogan, been with Drift for almost 3 years, and my most current role is running customer experience. So I'm responsible for the experience of our customers and our future customers.
And I'm Molly Clark. I am head of digital here at Drift, and I sit on the Demand Gen team. And I oversee all things digital, so digital experience, website, advertising, you name it.
So we know it's the end of your day, and we're really excited to be with you, and also really excited for the two of us to be partnering on this conversation. And to kick things off, I really want to talk about why we're here. So entering 2020, so many of us in marketing, probably many of you, were talking about the digital transformation journey. And if we fast forward to now, the moment we are in, we have all been transformed. We are there. We all now exist in an all digital world. So overnight, all of our websites became companies around the world, their only means to selling. Your website is now your storefront. And that means that your experience has to match this new reality. So today, Molly and I want to share with you some of the things we've learned, specifically 3 key things that we've had to figure out both from a digital and CX perspective, and offer you some ways that you can start to consider and think through how to adapt and evolve your buying experience. And to start, we want to talk about what's actually happening with the experience of your customers and future customers. And Molly will talk to us a bit about the buyer experience.
Thanks, Julie. So the buying experience as we know it is broken. In fact, 80% of brands believe they deliver a superior customer experience to their customers. But there's this huge disconnect because customers said that only 8% of companies delivered this superior experience. So there's this huge gap between perception and reality when it comes to customers' experience. Companies think they're doing a great job, but really they're not.
And what happens here is this dissonance seriously impacts your customers and seriously impacts their revenue, because we've learned that 74% of our customers actually opt out of the buying cycle if they find it too hard to buy. And beyond that, 51% of your customers will leave after just one bad experience. The other thing we know about this is from a recent study we ran with another company called Customer Gauge, with more than 100 B2B buyers and companies. We heard from them that even though those revenue repercussions are so risky, only 50% of the people who responded knew the ROI of their customer experience program, and only 50% and 57% of them weren't linking their financial data at all to their customer experience program. And so the reason this is so important, the reason we want to talk about this, is because in this new revenue era, so where we are and needing to attach revenue to everything we're doing across the journey, customer experience seriously impacts customer lifetime value, and that customer lifetime value directly impacts revenue. Now, if you're a recurring business, what ends up happening in many cases is that most of your revenue is coming after the initial sale. So when you think about where time is spent or where the investment is made in a marketing team, often we're only talking about new acquisition. On average, only 5 to 30% of new business is actually impacting those dollars, where from initial sale, where 70 to 95% of revenue can come from your renewals and upsells. And so in order to be able to think about this and to be in a place where you are not just replacing churn with new bookings, but you're creating a good experience for your existing customers to buy, you need to deliver a new experience that meets the buyer on their terms. And so as we sort of lay the foundation for what's happening, the problem that exists, this disconnect between revenue and what's happening with our customers, both our existing customers and our future customers, let's talk about the things that we've learned and start to sort of lay the foundation for some of the things that we can do. And so the first place we want to start is how to identify your target audience.
So I'm going to talk about this from a digital perspective, and Julie's going to talk about this from a CX perspective. So what this means for a digital experience, number one, your audience. So when it comes to digital acquisition and marketing, the foundation of a great experience is obviously your audience. So you need to know who it is you're trying to reach before you can figure out how to reach them and where to reach them. And typically this is your ICP. So the group of people most likely to find value in your solutions. And what does this look like from a CX perspective?
Yeah, so from a customer experience perspective, and some of you sitting in marketing today might be thinking, why are we talking about this? Why are we going from digital to CX? And one of the things Molly and I have learned is the the sort of connective tissue between understanding the entire journey and the digital footprint for how you drive that is so critically important to closing that loop on revenue. And so coming from the customer world, spending 10 plus years there, one of the things that we have to think about is really knowing that the journey doesn't end once your buyer becomes a customer. Your buyers are effectively forever buyers because you continuously have to re-earn the right to renewal and to more revenue. And so with this, when you think about your customers post-sale, once they have moved from future customers to actual customers, you want to start thinking about targeting your customers at the most basic level. And there are three that we really think are most important. The first is the industry and size of your business. So how can you start post-sale and throughout that continuation of their value journey with your business, how can you tailor what they need and when they need it so they understand the value that they're getting from what they're paying for? So industry, size, and business. The second is the customer contact type. And I can't stress how important this is. often we only engage post-sale with the primary user. We focus on campaigns and programs to drive adoption. But what about your executive sponsors? What about the other key people that you need to start building relationships with and engagement with? What information do they need to feel connected to your brand, even if they aren't the ones who are talking every day with customer success or account management or support? And then the third thing, and I'll dig into this a bit more as we move further through today's talk, but something that I refer to as the magic trio of loyalty, satisfaction, and product adoption. How can you really identify and think about where your customers sit across those three measures to recognize the renewal and the growth revenue likelihood from those customers?
And so after audience, obviously comes your preferred path. So what is it that they're doing? What actions are they taking? And in order to do that, like once you know who you're targeting, you have to figure out what their preferred journey is. And in marketing, we recommend looking to your existing customer database for this information. So again, you see this crossover between customer journey and your buyer's journey. So check out things like how many pieces of content customers engage with before making a purchase, or what channels are the most effective for reaching different segments of your ICP. What does this path look like on the CX side, Julie?
Yeah, and what I love about what you just said too is that we're closing that loop. We're feeding the insights from customers back into the top of the funnel and back into what we're doing to try to attract new customers who look like our most successful and most engaged customers. So to almost start that journey from the customer standpoint, what you want to think of are the actions or set of actions you want your customers to complete. So maybe you have an unengaged, unsatisfied, high potential customer. There's a journey path for that. Or maybe it's a highly engaged, highly satisfied, high potential customer who's only using 20% of your platform capabilities. There's a journey for that. So it's really being able to think about, once someone becomes a customer, what do you know about them? What do you know about their potential? And how can you start to set the path forward through your ongoing marketing, through your ongoing engagement, and effectively that ongoing customer experience to drive that customer toward the path of success that you want to drive them toward. There's so much support and work marketing can do to do this. And unfortunately, this often stops at point of sale. And we'll talk about that a bit further in the presentation. But something to take away here is this connective tissue between customer success, customer experience, and how these insights and this importance can feed directly back into the initial path of your buyers. And so the last point here, Molly, is data insights. Want to talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, so we have your audience, you have your path, and then the last thing is to get really granular and figure out how to personalize that journey for each individual person. So that data, again, lies within the customer data, the data you already have in the people that have success with your platform. So what do they expect, and how can we as marketers cater to those expectations?
Exactly. And what's interesting here on the customer side of the house, the key is using the data to know exactly what resonates with your customers and what doesn't, and meeting your customers where they are with a program or with content that matches what we know about their journey and then increases their likelihood of engaging. Coming from the customer world, this is where I like to show examples of things I've seen go wrong in the past. Nothing says to a customer that you don't understand me like a company sending out renewal or upgrade asks to a customer who's clearly giving you those data signals of not being engaged, not being satisfied, or not being in a place where they're ready. The other thing we often see is someone being unresponsive to a renewal or unresponsive to something where all they were looking for was help. You have that data. We have that information to understand where your customer is at and to match them. And so it's really about getting better at connecting the dots about where your customer is and what they need versus simply putting out messages and putting out information in an effort to try to engage as many people as possible. So taking the things that we learn at the very beginning of making somebody an interested buyer and turning them into a customer, we need to continue on taking those best practices and driving them throughout their journey of adoption and engagement with your products. The other thing I want to hit on, and this is my favorite part sorry, Molly, but my total favorite part of talking about digital experience and customer experience, because so often customer experience is thought of as a nice to have. We often don't have a seat at the table at these conversations. It's the softer side of marketing. I have heard it referred to as the spirit and swag department. But the reality is there is so much value and so much data that can truly transform the capabilities of revenue acceleration within your business if you focus on these key things. And so the first bit is something I mentioned earlier, which is that magic trio of loyalty, satisfaction, and product adoption. And what I mean by this, and what we've learned at Drift, is that this feedback model is critical because it's allowed us to anchor our collection of data across the life cycle to understand these three key things. One is, are you happy with our product and our platform? 2, are you happy with the interactions you have with our people, from customer support to success to the content you get? What is your sentiment around that? And then the third is, would you come again and tell your friends? We use these different measures, and I've given you the examples. Often the question is it NPS? Should it be CSAT? And our answer to that is it's a little bit of everything. We have a voice of the customer program that sits across the entire customer journey with listening channels at very specific milestones to bring us back sentiment at those milestones, to understand loyalty, satisfaction, as well as their adoption and experience with the product. So we take those to help us understand what is happening with our customers, what are the trends, and that allows us to take action in a much more specific way, both at an aggregate level with those trends and cohorts of customers, and then at the very direct specific level. So we can understand where a customer is based on their feedback and take action. Then you have to paint the full picture. So how does this feedback align with the customer's actual results? Are you or are your loyal and satisfied customers staying? Are they sharing their success stories? Are they writing reviews? Are they growing? Understanding this data is your roadmap for unlocking customer LTV and revenue. So take a picture, hold these metrics as something you start to focus on, and recognize the opportunity you have as somebody sitting in the marketing department, or maybe somebody sitting in CS who wants to drive revenue through CX. The combination of understanding satisfaction, sentiment, engagement against what that customer is driving for their own business and the success they're getting out of your product is the magic key to unlock that revenue success for you. And so, Molly, we've talked a little bit about the identification and understanding who these customers are and what we need to do to just better engage. Can you talk a bit more then about personalization and engaging in real time?
Yeah, definitely. So we have this thread running throughout this entire presentation of identifying really who we're targeting with certain messages and then reaching out to them at exactly the right time with exactly the right content. And so obviously in marketing, we call this personalization. And although we love to talk about personalization in marketing, the truth is we still haven't quite nailed our personalization strategies yet. In fact, 60% of businesses struggle to execute a personalization strategy. But we do have some good news here. So even though we're struggling with personalization, the buyers are truly craving that level of personalization, and they're willing to share the information that we need in order to offer that more personalized experience. And so one of my favorite examples of personalization done right comes from Smartling. After joining the company as the director of brand and communication, Andrew Cohn recognized that their website was really out of date. And so it wasn't providing the best experience for buyers or for interested customers. It was difficult to navigate, and he just wasn't finding that people were willing to fill out a form. And so I love this quote from him. He said, "The ideal customer experience is that anyone who comes to our site can answer a question and get an answer." And so Adrian wasn't seeing that. And so he had to make some changes. And so to fix this, Smartling completely redesigned their website and removed all of their forms. Instead, they used Drift's conversational marketing platform to have one-to-one personalized conversations with each and every visitor that was coming to their website in real time. And so the difference that Smartling saw from this one-to-one approach versus this very generic, gated, inaccessible approach that they were using before was huge. they were able to triple their MQLs in the first 60 days. And then with Drift automation, they were able to increase Drift conversations by 86%. That's huge. That's almost the equivalent of a form fill, but in fact, it's more dynamic. You're having a conversation. And so it's where the real time element of this really comes into play. They were also able to increase meetings booked through Drift by 75%, which just goes to show the effectiveness that having these conversations really has. And then lastly, they increased their meeting rates by 35%. And so the key for SmartLink was by tailoring interactive conversations and allowing buyers to connect with them in real time, they essentially removed all of the friction from the buying process, and they made it incredibly easy for their visitors to find what they were looking for. But the buyer's journey doesn't stop there, though. So now Julie is going to talk about what comes next.
Yes. And what I love so much about the SmartLink story, in telling his story and learning about the success and the value, I think often in marketing, you want to start immediately with the pipeline metrics or all of the things that you're used to just immediately diving into from a measurement standpoint. Our discussion around his value and success was anchored in the experience. What was the friction, as Molly mentioned? What was the friction that their buyers were encountering when they appeared on the website? What was stopping them from converting? Where were the places they were getting stuck? And so taking a step back and really thinking about what is the journey like for your buyers? Can you put yourself in their shoes and understand where that friction exists? What friction do you see in your own experiences as a buyer? And how can that influence the way that maybe you change or influence some innovation to how your digital journey works? And so this third piece I want to focus on, and the last thing we're going to cover today, is nailing the follow-up. And I'll also start with a customer quote. So Matt Mullen, he's the Senior Director of Global Marketing and Ops and Technology at Tenable, one of Drift's customers who we love so much. And I love this quote: "I knew I needed to create more quality, more consistent engagement, and more efficiency within the pipeline from a follow-up standpoint." And the reason why I like this quote so much is it's something that you need to think about beyond point of sale. Often we stop right here and we get here. We get to buy and we're done thinking about this. Acquiring a new customer often is 5 to 25 more times expensive than retaining an existing one. And if you stop it by, you are leaving money on the table. So the quotes and the ways in which we talk about the importance of removing that friction is something that has to continue throughout the buying journey. And this is a visual. I absolutely love this. We borrowed it from our friends at Tatango that I think does a really good job illustrating the journey that most of our customers are on. So for any customer, regardless of what you sell, there is this journey of needing to see that first value or first success, then needing to continue to grow in the value that they see from what you offer. And over time, what that means is they're increasing their usage and expanding their functionality. But what's critical when you look at this is that you see the paths where this cannot go correctly. If they don't get to that first value, or they're not recognizing that value or feeling connected to your brand or the experience that they expected, you lose them there. You can then lose them before a growth opportunity and then lose them further into where we think they could propel into. Your goal as somebody who's part of the marketing team is to help accelerate this journey. And if you're watching this and thinking, well, we have CSMs and we have account managers and renewal managers for that, I would urge you to change your thinking. It's our job in marketing. And as we think about the CMO 3.0 and the role that experience is taking, we have an obligation to the companies we support to drive this journey, because it's the natural continuation of the pre-sale buying experience that we want to deliver to our customers throughout the lifetime of their engagement with us. And so using this as a visual to help think through, after that customer buys, what is the next milestone in the journey for that customer to accelerate the revenue and to accelerate and expand the experience they have with your brand based on what was promised pre-sale.
So I really love that graphic, Julie. I think it just goes to show that essentially every single customer, every single potential customer, they're all on the same journey. They're just at different stages. And so as marketers, whether it's pre-sale or post-sale, there's so much that we can do to really capitalize on each and every person that we're engaging with. And so I know we've talked about a lot today, but I just want to leave you with some key takeaways that we really swear by here at Drift. And you can use these at your own organization, whether in pieces or whether as the whole thing, to really build a better, more modern buying experience. So we talked about identifying your target audience. And so this comes obviously from both a digital perspective in terms of who you want to reach with your ads, with your campaigns, and then also who's your audience once these people become a customer. And then the next thing is personalize, engage with future customers in real time to upgrade your buying experience. Modern customers know what they want, and they want it in real time, and they want it to apply to them. So you really have to take that into account when you are customizing your buyer's journey before and after these people become customers. And then the next thing is continue to nurture and re-engage your audience, collecting data and information as you go. That way you can continue to personalize and engage in more effective ways. So you're feeding all of your data back into the programs that you are using to successfully kind of identify new customers, and then also to nurture existing customers. And then consider your return on experience. Ask yourself, could your experience be better? And how much are you losing because of it? And how are you measuring that? And then lastly, don't think of your website visitors as just traffic. Think of each and every visitor as a future buyer who has specific individual needs and needs that you can meet. And so if you enjoyed this session and you want to learn more, we've linked a great piece of content for you to check out. It's called the Sales and Marketing Field Guide to Today's New Digital Normal. And we go into a lot of the topics we covered today. And it's super helpful, and it's a super in-depth guide to a lot of the same things that we're discussing here. And also, so if you are interested in building a better buying experience with Drift, we'd love to help you out, and we can definitely show you that. So thank you, Julie. This was great.
Thanks so much for having us. Really excited talking about it. And feel free to reach out to Molly and I to talk about the digital and customer experience that you're driving at your businesses. We're happy to help you. Thanks so much for listening.
All right. Thank you so much, ladies. That was awesome. We did get some really good questions from the audience as well. But before I get to those, I just want to remind everyone once again to please share your thoughts and feedback with us before logging off today. You can do so by clicking that survey icon, and the survey will automatically launch when the session ends. One more heads up before I go into Q&A. We're going to go through as many questions as we can. But if we don't get to your question live, no worries. We'll be following up with answers via email. All right, let's get to those questions. All right, first one. Are there any specific types of experiences you've created that seem to resonate more with your buyers?
Molly, want to take that one for future customers, and I can take that for existing customers?
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing that comes to my mind is an experience that I encountered when I first started here at Drift. So a lot of the different landing pages and assets that we were using for our paid programs weren't providing the best experience. So we could tell that people were not really happy with the experience they were getting. They were not learning what they thought they were going to learn, especially from our SEM programs in particular. So obviously, when you search something on Google, you expect an answer to whatever question it is that you've searched for. And so if you land on a page from a brand and you don't find that answer immediately, or you don't find a solution to your problem, then you're not going to stay there. You're not going to last. You're not going to stick around. You're going to go find another search result. So in order to make this experience better, we revamped our entire landing page strategy. We put 3 key value prop in there, a 1 clear call to action, and we actually saw our conversion rates skyrocket from something like 2.9% to 9%. So just by simplifying and streamlining and really placing the focus on the value within one landing page, we were really able to get a better experience for our future customers and really reduce the friction to get them the information that they wanted.
It's great. From a customer standpoint, something that we've really been focused on based on what we've learned really this year and the end of last year is building better relationships and engagement higher and deeper in our customer accounts. And so what we realized was that the decision makers and the people really driving the strategy that influences the use of Drift is often at the director to VP level, but our communication, our post-sale communication was mostly targeted and triggered toward our product adopters. So the people who are maybe using Drift every single day. And so we started to build a program around identifying and engaging higher and deeper at our customers. And we put a big focus on the top 75% of specific revenue within cohorts of customers. So really looking at where's the opportunity to have the biggest engagement. And we started to build a program that focused on bringing customers together in networking and thought leadership. And so we started proactively targeting individuals. In some cases, it was a bit of a cold outreach because we'd not had a relationship with them, inviting them to come to an exclusive customer event where we focused on a topic that we were hearing coming up from the customer success organization most frequently. And for us, no surprise, last quarter, it was virtual events. So we've held 2 of these events targeted at, one, creating networking opportunities for like-minded senior marketing leaders to meet and talk about a topic that's important to them. And 2, really to help us engage and build those relationships. And from that program, we now have identified key people at these customers and are building more trust, engaging with them more. This has led to more customer stories, which then leads to more advocacy. This has also helped us tee up some pretty critical opportunities for renewal and adoption into more of our platform, given what they learn about the experiences other customers have. So huge potential in programmatizing the way in which you engage and the way in which you think about events for your customers that can lead to that revenue acceleration, all driven by customer experience.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Next one coming up. How do you ensure that you're providing a consistent experience to all of your buyers?
So I think probably Julie and I will have a similar perspective on this, but I'd love to hear her answer too. But from me, it's all about alignment. So we know that the journey starts from when it's a future buyer and not someone who's ever even purchased from us yet. And so they don't know anything about our organization. They don't know anything about our products. And so we need to make sure that the way that we are educating them and getting them into the buyer's journey is consistent with how we're treating them and how we're talking to them once they become a customer. And so alignment is key to that within marketing and then even beyond marketing as well throughout the entire organization. So how are we talking to our customers consistently? What are the expectations that they have for us? And how are we meeting those expectations as a marketing department, as a sales department, as a customer success department? And so it's critical that you have people talking within your organization and really understanding what the end goal is and what the ideal experience is. I'd love to hear your take though, Julie.
Yeah, it's similar. And I talked about this a little bit in the presentation, but that idea of the connective tissue, what we've learned is that, so frequently, particularly in like fast growing SaaS companies, marketing operates here, sales operates here, customer success and post-sale operates here. And you sort of live in these 3 little worlds that are focused on pipeline, bookings, and retention and adoption. And what ends up unintentionally happening is many companies put most of their marketing resources into pipeline and bookings, and there's a consistent experience perhaps there, and that sort of exits the reality of the customer when they become a customer, because often that customer marketing is something that's an afterthought or not invested in. And so something we have really focused on is how do we start to define the journey from very, very early interest all the way through to renewal and ongoing adoption? And what are all of the points of contact we have with those customers? And are we using consistent messaging and branding? Are we talking the same way? Are we educating our teams who sit across all of those functions in the business, who touch customers at different stages of their journey? Are we educating them on what it means to speak with our brand voice and to engage in the way we want them to? The second thing that we've also been focused on is really being able to have a central location for all customer communication. And so often, again, these live in their different worlds. Marketing will send things, customers will send things through our Voice of the Customer program, actually this quarter. So we're riding the bike while we're building it. We are starting to really audit and assess every single touch point that a customer has with our brand and with our content, so that we can make sure there's zero inconsistency in how that customer engages with you, from a sales rep, from a customer support rep, from a customer success rep, from an account manager. And we want to make sure that that's streamlined. So that's some work we're putting into it. But again, it comes down to that alignment, that consistency, and knowing the details of what's going out to your customers.
Awesome. Good stuff. All right. I think we have time for one more. All right. Where is the overlap between customer experience and the buying experience?
I can jump in this one, Molly, to kick it off. We were talking about this yesterday, and I think what's interesting is they're often defined as two worlds. There's the customer and then there's the buying, when really, like, your buyers are your future customers. And so I think, phase one of this generally in conversations with marketing and sales and CS teams has been, there's pre-sale and post-sale, and that is what happens. And where we're at now, I think, is really like thinking about your buyers as future customers, and it not being a baton pass over the fence, but instead a continuation of that experience. And so when we think about the different stages and the different steps, really sort of re-educating and retraining ourselves on it being a continuation with very specific milestones and goals you have to accelerate through. And so marketing's role really should not end. It should be fluid all the way through purchase. In fact, that critical moment of purchase to handoff is often where a lot of things go wrong, because we're so excited that we got it over the fence. Often whatever marketing is responsible for, like, their job is done and it's over into the world of adoption and engagement. But in many cases, we should think of that as like, we're just getting started, and there's so much more we need to do to not only bring this revenue over the line, but secure it and ensure that through the programs and the campaigns and the systems and the insights, we are driving so much value in support of all of the work that our product and our customer teams are going to be doing to get that customer to see success. So I don't know if that's a super clear answer, but I feel like where we are today is this like vision of handing over the fence, pre-sale, post-sale. And really, we have to start thinking about it as the continuous journey and marketing's role in keeping it fluid. Molly, what's your take?
No, I think you completely nailed it. Like the Venn diagram of people of the customer journey and then the future customer journey, it's slowly becoming a circle. So I think we touched on this a little during the presentation, but it's different stops on the same path. So the way I like to think about it is in terms of my own buying experiences, especially from an acquisition perspective. I can't tell you how many times a company or usually a company or a website has made it difficult for me to buy their product. And I'm just like screaming at them, take my money, I'm trying to buy this thing. And there's all this friction in the way. And so whether it's I have to now talk to someone or I have to put in more information, it's just not a great experience. And so if I do end up going with that purchase, or most of the times I won't, I either don't become a customer or I already have this bad taste in my mouth. And so then I'm leaving it up to the rest of, as the marketer in that situation, I'd be leaving it up to the rest of the team to kind of make that up and kind of make amends. And this person's starting off on the wrong foot. So when you think of it as one continuous journey, it just makes it more cohesive for the person on the other end of that experience, I think.
Exactly. One quick thing I'll add to what Molly just said, because everything you just mentioned is so true and so important. That continuation and thinking of it almost as a feedback loop. Once you get your customer to that ideal journey, so they've seen value, they've seen success, they have grown both in usage and spend with your platform, that then creates the opportunity for advocacy. And those advocates then become some of your best marketing for you. So the investment in customer stories, in external reviews, in engaging deeply with your top customers in events and feedback opportunities, all of that creates marketing material for you not only to go to market with, but to also enable your sales team with. And something we're very focused on is enabling our sales team to become the best storytellers possible, not just about our product, but about the success of our customers and the value they see. And there's no better way to tell that than through the voices of people who are raving fans of what you offer. And so, Molly and I all day long could talk about Drift, but I'd rather our 50 best, most excited, engaged customers telling those stories. It makes our job a lot easier. And all of that is done well if you're able to execute in the right way across that journey from the very beginning of their engagement with your brand all the way through to renewal and advocacy.
I love that. Well, I'm going to stop right there with the Q&A just to give everybody some extra time before the next session. But thank you both for those awesome answers.
Great.
All right, that's a wrap. Thanks again to Drift's Julie Hogan and Molly Clark for such an awesome session. And thank you to all of our attendees for taking the time to join us. The session will, as always, be available on demand, but be sure to catch the next one at 12 p.m. ET tomorrow. It's called The Myth of the Sales Ready Lead, Bridging the Gap Between Identifying and Creating In-Market Opportunities. We hope to see you there. Thanks again, and have a great rest of your day. Stay safe.